Well, we got bad news and then maybe a little good news later. You have to put up with me during Sunday school. We got a business preacher today, really good. So everybody, just put up with me, look forward to the next.
What time did you do here?
By the time services start. You might get me to do this, but you won't get me. It's serious. Today, we're going to talk about 3 John, the book or the chapter. Since there's one chapter in chapter 1. And I'm going to base this out of our lesson book that we have in class. We're almost through with it. 2 John and 3 John, if you look at them, you don't put the names in there or who they're written to. Very similar books. Seemed like it could have been to the same congregation, maybe not. Don't know who it was sent to. Don't know positively that John is the one that wrote it. But he gets credit for it because it sounds like John in his way he describes things and other lessons of the book. It says there's a twin epistle. One before was to a lady. Don't know her name. Don't know much about her. The 2 John, the lady and her faithful. John is very happy to hear that her children are following the gospel. It's sort of like when Paul was writing to Timothy. What did he call Timothy? His son in the gospel. So this is John writing to people that he's converting, and then maybe their children. If it wasn't a lady, it may have been the church. Sometimes churches are referred to in the feminine name. Right on time.
Be like that. Don't hide. Uh-oh.
Hey, this is the second time, isn't it?
I'm keeping count.
See, how many of you out here would get after your teacher like that now while they were teaching?
Sorry.
Haven't done it since the last time, right? Okay, but on this one, it says, the elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love and approve. What is that phrase really saying? I love and approve. He's somebody that Paul probably converted or had something to do with it. He knew it, personally acquainted. But he's heard rumors about the life this fellow lives. Missionaries just went through and they stopped there. And he gave them hospitality, may have given them a place to stay while they were there. He sent them away, but it sounds like he helped them. And I'm not saying, he said, welcome to have you, good to see you this day, hope everything goes good. It was one that, with his faith, he put with it caused him to do things that would help the people and encourage them. So that is, I think it's a brother in Christ. And that's what he's saying. He loves them in the truth. He is following the truth. And that's what John is trying to tell the people. You need to live in the truth. You need to do the things what you do. Be an example. Verse 2 says, beloved, I pray that you may prosper in all things and be in health, just as your soul prospers. Anybody would like to raise their hand and say, pray that prayer for me? Some of us might have doubt in our mind whether we do all the things we're supposed to do. Would we, refrain from feeling that way? Well, here, how about if somebody prayed that your life, your prosperity be as good as your faith? If your health would be as good as your faith? Some people would love to have their health good as their faith. Some people have lots of health problems that are good Christians. They would love that. Others that may get by, no complaints, but they would love to have their financial situation to be as good as their health. Unique prayer there, I think. I don't know if anywhere else that it compares those things, but just someone to say your faith to us from where we are. It's very shocking. For I rejoice greatly when brethren came and testified of the truth that is in you, just as you walk in the truth. He's not basing this on something just, off. But he says these are faithful, these are missionaries that came through and what you did for them. So that word is spread the type of person Gaius was. It's a popular name in the New Testament. There's, I think, 4 different ones, different places. In Acts, a couple, in Romans, and 1 Corinthians. But it seems that Gaius was one of those people around when they were being persecuted. He was thought that when his name is mentioned, because they came to him and arrested him or something, and he was going to prison. But we don't know if it has anything to do with this Gaius, another Gaius. We don't know, because all we know about this one is what this book says, because it doesn't have nowhere else does it identify him as being who he is. But there is where he's getting his information from. We hear about a good friend of ours that goes to church some other place. And you hear he's a good person, it makes you feel good. But if it's somebody from that congregation that tells you examples of the things he's doing, it makes you feel even better to know that, especially if you had something to do, well, it's all. We can turn it on. There. Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. If you're listening over the phone, I just finally got smart enough to turn the lights on. My fault. See, I took credit for doing something. So don't tell anybody I haven't done anything today. I have no greater joy than to hear that my children walk in truth. If you help convert someone, you did it, you was that big part in it. When you hear that that person is faithful, they're obeying, they're sharing God's word and trying to bring other people to Him. Think how good that makes you feel. The other one, you brought somebody to Christ And then you find out that they are not faithful anymore. Something in this world drew them away, so they went back. You may always wonder, what did I not know that I should have taught them? What could I have done different? So I understand why John feels good. The last letter, he said that her children were faithful. And it gave him great joy to hear that. So, great joy in seeing somebody be a Christian. Beloved, you do faithfully whatever you do for the brethren and for strangers. Those missionaries came by. Some of them may have been people that he knew, had been there before or something, but also there was probably some new people there that he didn't know. And he helped them too. It wasn't just people he knew he was helping. He helped strangers. It's this. I think about that. I think that we haven't done anymore, but we used to have missionaries come. We used to have preachers come for meetings. And there was a few families that had to stay in their house. Some people, if they didn't get the preacher to stay in the house, they weren't happy. Because I've heard them tell about it. They wanted them to stay in the house. But they had a book wrote down, and they had the dates and times that the different preachers or missionaries, whatever, stayed in your house. So, and they read this: if you help other people, you're laying up treasures in heaven. That's way for you to, that's the deposit box. You help me, your reward goes to heaven ways. Plus, that's going to tell him how much encouragement or reward you may get for being around those people and seeing the life and example of sin. It says, who had borne witness of your love before the church, if you send him forward on their journey in a manner worthy of God, you do well. Here's where it says, those people that did those good deeds, when those people that you helped came back, they told the church about it. And they told the church there, how many other churches, if they were traveling missionaries or something, would you have told how they were treated? Really nice as someone, in a location. The Lord says, you can't do good deeds and have them be a secret. But it says, if you send them forward on their journey in a manner worthy of God, you do well. So there, where he's telling you what we need to do, or we can be pleased to the Lord. Because they went forth from his namesake, taking nothing from the Gentile. And here is, he's talking about Paul, referring to an example like Paul. Paul, when he was going to the Gentiles, he didn't take a collection up there and the Gentiles paying for preaching. He said they might get the idea that I'm doing this for money, not for the love of the Lord. So he supported himself, or he let other churches support him and send him money where he did not have to ask the Gentiles. And at times he worked. But that was one of the things said, if you're working in the church, a labor worker is deserving of your wages. But he didn't want to do it to the people that he was trying to teach from birth. He wanted them to know that he wasn't there for their money. I'm not saying he's wrong to pay, I'm just saying he didn't set that example. We therefore ought to receive such that we may become fellow workers for the truth. How often do you think that you're a fellow worker with a missionary? If we've got a missionary here, we'll say Adriano. Does anybody ever feel that there's really, as far as the Lord is concerned, they're a fellow worker with the company? See, this is why I have a hard time talking forward. My class back there,
We would have never got this far, would we?
we would have side noted and talked about other things, but we try to keep it spiritual. I said try. But
Even if Adriana was not here, where he is, if you're praying for him and you know part of your contribution goes to him, that's supporting him.
that's my point. We are fellow workers in Brazil with Adriano.
So his successes were a part of that.
Yes, each time he baptizes somebody down there, we have a small part in that. But I met him the first time he was here in Papa. And he'd been trying to raise money, and he was going to home. Time it was over, he was ready to go home. He couldn't get enough support to live. And I told him Hot River Road would send him much money. I was driving, and I think he was surprised. But when I told him that, I didn't need video on it to understand his feelings. What he yelled, what his wife did, because they had made the decision the night before that they were going to go preaching, but they couldn't raise the money. And he was leaving, like a week later. It wasn't his last day, but I called him, talked to him, and told him how much money he was going to get. And I said, with the 500 we ended up that time, guys, starting with, I think it was 500 that he would get a month. That was enough for him leaving hospital. Teaching.
Is there any way we can get like a quarterly update on what he does? I feel like I forget we even help him. I don't know if I'm missing.
You ever go to the webpage?
No.
Well, talk to your daddy. Talk to daddy and get daddy to show you that, because we get those letters and it posts on there.
Okay. Yeah.
Daddy, would you take care of that?
I'll tell you what, you give me your email address, I'll send him a check and I'll have to add you to the distribution list, because he sends out
Oh,
your email address.
okay.
Well, the training session as soon as church is over.
Maybe that'd be our lesson during the service today. Thank you. See how much it helps for people to speak up? Most times when people ask a question, they're not the only one that wants to know this answer. There's several more that probably haven't been on the web page in months that would love to know what he's doing.
We've told them several times, but people forget, I forget. So We need to run that.
Well, you know, my problem with this is, I don't go to the webpage because he sends me a copy. When he sends Jay a copy, we get the copy at the same time. And then I spoiled a couple of people, because I put a thing where I could just text to them and, forward it to them. So, and I do it to anybody else if they want me to. It's just, they asked me to, so I did. But that's just so telling me how easy it is to help somebody else. If somebody stops us, puts the wall up front of us, says, now stop and think, can you do this for me? Anyway. Now I got it here, which is okay.
George says, I'm gonna do that, send that email. If anybody's here that wants me to do it, because it's write your email down on the bulletin, here's a handout this morning, give it to me, I'll send them one over. I'll just send one email to Adrian Line, and the email will be quite good, and say, please add any things to your distribution. And get it all out. So, if anybody wants me to do that, then, or give it to them.
You want to tell them during, is your leaving, or you and Jay make that on announcement?
They can make it home.
Okay.
They're all my things.
Hey, I didn't think it bothered you to say anything.
But it's the newsletter, it's got video links in it. He does a good job with it.
But anyway, the more we see what he does and understand what he goes through, the more we can appreciate it, the more we can understand that we are actually doing something to help.
Got on this tangent, we're now sitting from $1,000 a month. $300 from the church, $700 from several other people. $1,000.
It sounds like several people here respected, have faith in him, and want to do the Lord's work. To me, that is what I get out of my congregation. But the church does it, but individuals can also help too. Now let's change the subject in this thing. He said, I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have preeminence among them, does not receive us. What does that sound like? He says he wants to be first. He's the one in charge, and everything's going to go through him. But if he's part of the church and doing those and has that attitude, what did he miss? It's the Lord there. It's not the church. He don't get to make the rules. Because here's an apostle writing a letter to the church. And he don't want the church to hear from him. Can you imagine writing a letter to a church and one of the apostles saying, he wrote a letter and said, no, I can read that. Can you imagine Paul, somebody writing a letter to a church, some fellow he knows real good, of encouragement? He said, no, I don't like what's in it. I'm not going to read it. But on the other man. I'm not saying you've ever known anybody like that in the church, an elder or someone, but you probably heard stories that had people that try to protect the church much as they can, and so if something that they don't think is right, somebody, they get a letter on it, they won't share, they won't share that. They think since they're right, they can stop everybody else from doing things different. But anyway, it says he loves to have preeminence among them, and does not receive him. But as you would think, one of the apostles, therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds which he does, prating against us with malicious words. That's the New King James Version. How many of us talked about prating against somebody? Tell me real fast what prating against somebody is.
Spreading gossip. Something gossip about me.
It's not good stuff. It's not a compliment. It's complaints. But it may or may not be true.
Even if it's true, if it's malicious, it's not good to say it.
No, some things are left best unsaid. But if you're trying to prove a point, it doesn't make it any right to say something that's wrong to prove your point. And I hope I can remember that. If I ever try to do that about someone, I'll remember I'm the example of what you should do. But he's going to call his man his deeds, which he does, writing against with malicious words. Not content with that, he himself does not receive the blessing. Missionaries is coming, wanting to talk, share encouragement. Don't want to hear it. And forbids those who wish to. You got good people there that know they're doing right. They want to hear. No, you can't. You can't speak here. Then if you go a little bit farther, he's willing to put that person out of the church because they don't go along with it. So we think we've seen the problem in churches today. They've been here since the beginning. And they will be here probably as long as we have time out here going. The clock's still running. They will probably still be here. He gives a command here that I don't think we could say it any differently. And I mean, beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. Because in this, all through John, if you're doing good, he's supporting you. But if you're not following the way you should, he says you haven't seen God, you don't love God, you don't know God.
It makes you wonder if Gaius is one of the ones that God was kicked out.
Could have been. That's what, and at the end of it down here, he said that this actually, Gaius may have been one of the people that he had such a problem with. But that
I'm sure he did, because he was doing all the things that Dr. Fraser said.
but this writer in the book says that John may have wrote this letter to encourage Gaius because he been kicked out of the church, to encourage him to continue to do what was right. You're not alone. The Lord's with you. A lot of people understand this. But probably did send this letter to the church or to the people there to Gaius. He found another fellow that's well known, maybe another missionary or whatever, but Demetrius, he has good testimony from all and from the truth itself. This is a guy that people know the person he is, he's respected, but he follows the truth. And from the truth itself, and we also bear witness. And you know that our testimony is true. So he's saying here, John's saying, and let me put my stamp of approval on the actions of this guy. He is a good guy. He teaches the right thing. He lives in the truth. And other people, all the people that know him, respect him. So when he comes, you've got somebody to be with you. You can listen to him. And he may be there also to help. We don't know. But anyway, he told them, this is Demetrius. Listen to him. Let him help. I had many things to write, John said, but I did not wish to write to you in any. That's the way he ended the letter to folks. But he left like he didn't want to write from paper a bunch of long lists of things we want to talk about, but he wanted to visit. Now, how close this church would work, we don't know. But here he said, I want to make it soon. I hope to come by, visit with you, and we can have a long conversation and encourage each other and think. This may have been places that John was very familiar with. We don't know that how much, but anyway, he knew the people there. He knew the actions of a lot of them. And he says, but I hope to see you shortly, and we shall speak face to face. Peace to you, our friends. Greet you. Greet the friends by name. Personally, Gaius, tell them I asked about it by name. In my lesson, there's not long enough to last the whole thing. If I get conversations going, we get off on something. My last 2 weeks. So. Well, I got a bunch of questions to answer, so I want to ask them, and we'll see if I covered the points enough if we can get some of them. And by the way, even the true and false in here, you can't go with this book totally. Depends what attitude you have up here, how you look at the questions, because usually 2 or 3 of them will give multiple true or false, either one in your life. guess you're looking at it the other way, they all could be there. What did John say caused him to rejoice greatly?
When they testified of the truth that was in theirs.
So. Has anybody in here ever helped convert or teach someone? Are you, maybe you taught a child coming up through classes? And then when that child has grown and you get to hear about them, you know them, you see them, and they're an example of a Christian. And just, just think that 45 minutes once a week with them. Something might have rubbed off. So wouldn't that make you feel good? Much better than if they didn't go to church and just did, whatever. But if you're teaching in a class, teaching one-to-one, whatever, if you're sharing the Lord's message, and that person later, you look back and you see the result from it. That's why they say it's here. That makes me feel good. What term did he give instead of his name in this book? What did he call himself? It could be because he's an old person talking to the people who converted. Could be he's saying since he's an apostle, the respect for that. It doesn't say why he said that, it just says he said it. Why receive those who went forth for his name's sake?
They didn't become fellow helpers.
You can be fellow workers within which is there any place in the Bible that he discouraged us to be fellow workers for sharing his word?
And the person's not doing it.
I know that he is, I said, but the Bible doesn't encourage us to do that. It's easier to answer the question, where does it say don't do it? And say, where does it say to do it? Every book in the Bible. What did John tell Christians to follow, to imitate? Follow what is good. Do not follow evil. Describe the attitude of Demetrius. No, Diotrephes, wrong one. What's an attitude of Diotrephes?
That's the preeminence.
How would you describe Gaius? Or how did John describe it?
Often do praise.
He walked in the truth.
And command the love.
What were the deeds of Diotrephes? Love preeminence? What else did he do?
Pray that it gets.
Okay. He talked about them or gossip?
Put people out of the church. They like to accept, offer hospitality.
Okay. If they were trying to do the right thing, and they wouldn't listen to him, he'd put them out of the church. And he did not receive missionaries. In John's letter that he wrote him, he wouldn't share it with the church. Well, how would you describe Demetrius then, the one who was carrying this letter? They think he was, they don't know that. They give him credit. Some of the writers do. I guess everybody does anything together. He's given credit for several of them. How would you describe him?
And that's a good testimony from Paul.
And a good testimony from the truth. And recall their witness, including five. So that was saying what he had done and how he acted. Who did John say had borne witness of their charity?
People that helped.
Those missionaries were traveling through, when they came and they testified to all the church there about what had happened, who helped them and things. So they came and told about it, so they gave witness of a person Gaius and his congregation was. True and false. John said the brethren should have taken support of the Gentiles. Didn't say anything about whether they should or should not have. They did, obviously. John said, he that doeth evil has not seen God. What's that really saying? How many of us have seen God? Physically seen him? No. Of what have we seen? The results doing good, doing what he's best. So, to me, that's, playing on words there, but we look at people's lives that follow him, try to follow all the rules of the Bible, and see, we can see how it's affected him. John had no greater joy than to hear that his children walk in truth. How many parents feel that way about their children? Hopefully I won't, right? If they believe in the Lord, hopefully I will be. Love that compliment. John had hope of seeing Gaius, to whom he wrote this letter. Okay? He wanted to see him. John evidently had many other things to write than what is included in this letter. He didn't want to write with him meek, he wanted to say it in person. Now, at this point in my class, I got through all the lesson in one day. See, hear him laughing at me? Thank you for letting me listen up here this morning. Sorry I put you to sleep. But this finishes our book of John. So, I want to period. Glad to be up here doing this today. but I can tell, I didn't get many people involved. I mean, you can say this, if I can keep calling that twice that long, I've done something.
Just don't give me coffee.
Oh, is that what it is?
Coffee's something up.
And I thought you liked the coffee. Instead of just wanting to have the right thing. Oh. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.